All right, guys. So on to the next session. Last week, what did we talk about? We talked about the defensive mindset in this nine quadrant view of the field. And so this week, I kind of wanted to transition over and talk about the offensive mindset of how we ought to play, right? And part of it is understanding where you need to be whenever the ball is in a certain situation on the field, for example, in the back. And what I'll do, because offense is kind of, it's interesting because offense implies everybody's movement, right? It's not just the person on the ball, it's everybody that's surrounding the ball. So if you look at a really good team, and you look at an average team, it's very apparent. The average team is spaced out. It's not moving as a unit. When the ball's in a certain position, only 2 to 3 players move on the field. Whereas if we're looking at it from the perspective of a well-oiled machine, wherever the ball is in these nine quadrants, everybody is shifting, including the goalkeeper. So I'm going to break it down from that perspective first. In each one of these quadrants, and we'll start with two and we'll move from two progressively on to nine. I'm not sure if I'll be able to cover everything, but we might do two parts to this. I'm going to then use the tactical board on this side to actually show where everyone should be, right? So this is extremely, extremely sort of important for us to understand. So let's start off. Let's say, so if we're looking at two, what's two? Two is somewhat like this, right? The ball's in this area. CB could have it. Any one of these individual players should have it. So let's start off with the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper has it. Two things happen. If it's in his hand, he's doing one of two things. Until we are technically sound, meaning every single player, when the ball comes, can trap the ball within 1 or 2 feet of where they are, and also feel very comfortable of turning with the ball in any single direction and playing with both feet in any single direction. Most likely, what we're going to do is we're going to kick it out until we have that skill set, right? So let's assume the positions of the other team. So I'll just use uh, Beach as an example. They played a 3-3-2. And they had a bunch of players shift back down and forward. From the forward, he can drop back into the midfield to play D. But generally speaking, if we divide this into thirds, right? Let's divide this into these thirds. If a team drops back to the third, if they drop back to the third and our keeper has it, defenders drop back to receive the ball like this, right? We play out of the back when we have a lot of room to play with. If the offense, if the other team pushes up real close to us, vacate these areas. Left wing, come up, right wing, come up, and we all shift up as a team, right? We shift up as a team. And what the goalkeeper ought to do is he should play the ball into these areas here or here, right? But depending on Andre's ability or Nathan's ability to pick those spots, the angle that we would want to go into is these angles right here to the sidelines, not down the middle. Down the middle, we'll just invite them to boot it straight down right back at us, most of the player. Yes, Micah.
So, would you not like front the players that are pressing up, or would you stay behind them and just like because you were saying in a um uh video before where you're supposed to stand in front of the defender.
Yeah. So let's assume they have a ball, right? And if the 90% of the time, the keeper should be able to get the ball in the air over everybody's head and land roughly around 5, 7, or 6 player. If you, generally speaking, if you were standing here, they'll press up. If you vacate up to the third line, let's say, they're not going to stand here. I mean, the expectation is for them not to stand there. I sure as heck hope that our keeper is not kicking it like this, right? It should be into a gap that allows us to have a chance not to be countered on. But usually when this happens, they'll move back. They'll move back as well because they know the ball's just going to go over their head. Now, in the situation where we're on a goal kick, right? A goal kick, the ball's down here. And usually it's kind of like this out here, right? So they think that we're going to press in on them. And so they'll come up. They'll all come up here. In this case, you're absolutely right because until I know for a fact that you guys can chip the ball perfectly with ease over people's heads, I would want you to actually come back and help front or be close to them. So if there is an error, you're right there to support. Make sense? But great question. That's actually it makes me the fact that you asked that question makes me know that you're paying attention and you actually are processing what I'm sharing. So that was a very good take. But let's go back here, right? Ideally speaking, when we have the goalkeeper is going to play in this direction. This is where I want them to actually play because where have we been so effective on our teams? Our wingers are actually extremely fast, right? Gavin, Benji, Jonathan, they're all quick. So, or Noah in that case. So we want to play down the wing. And part of it is because when it comes down on the wing, even if they boot it back, it's going to come down here. Versus if you come right down the middle with these young players, they'll just kick it straight back here and create a lot of chaos. If you watch the game that we played, what we noticed is that of the 5 goals they scored, 4 of them were our mistakes. And I'm not going to get into the specifics. It was being out of position and not sitting in your area where you could have engaged faster. It's the ball coming, and instead of hitting it forward, you hit it and it spun back as a perfect pass to the offense. Or it's because we made a decision where the keeper came out and it hit his hand and it spun over. So there was a bunch of goals that, to be honest, shouldn't have been goals that they should have scored. All our goals were created a shot from Mark and 3 dribbles from Jonathan, right? It wasn't an accident on their side messing up. So when I was watching the game again, that's why I changed the lineup a little. I changed the strategy a little bit. But let's look at this again. So now let's assume in this situation, it's very simple. Keeper has it. He makes a decision. If they are back in their third, we drop back to receive and play out. If they are closer to us, have him just kick it out. So it avoids the pressure for us. Once we get better with our skills, we'll start playing through the back. Now, what happens in the case where a defender gets it and the defender is here? He's being pressed, right? Like, where's everybody supposed to be? Let's say he's there, right? In this case, LD needs to drop back. Actually, you can probably drop back behind him a little bit because if he's in trouble, he turns your way, he passes to you, you let it run, and then you're running outside to clear it up the top, right? Keeper should definitely be in a position where they're available. His first thought should be to dribble away from the goal. And as he dribbles away from the goal with the ball, the keeper's position switches to this side. This player stays deep, comes in here. Right wing drops back. These 3 are center mid, right? He drops back here. This guy drops here to create the base, right? You're trying to create the base. In this situation, the base would be here to the ball, right? Center mid stays here as the outlet to the other diamond. In this case, what happens is this guy's going to chase. This guy's going to shift in the middle. This guy's in here. The winger's back here, right? The winger's back here. And as the transition happens, you're shifting up because you're anticipating that the ball is going to come here to here, which then opens up this gap on that side. You have to go within 3 passes. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You're looking in this gap. That's the outlet. This is the outlet right here. This is what you want as an outlet because that's the space, right? Also, we look as well, and mind you, the other thing that I want to show you is Seven will probably end up sneaking into this area because he has to guard 2 guys, right? So center mid behind here, if this line isn't available, you know that this guy is going to get the ball, and so you need to shift in between as you anticipate where the second ball is coming. So anticipation forces you to move. If you remember what I showed you here, right? What I showed you here was very simple. When a certain player has it, he has certain options that are made available. If you know that this option, DM, is going to receive the ball, what's the DM's immediate option afterwards? Let me see if I can find it. DM's options is A1 and A2, right? In this case, it'll be DM. But what you have to realize is what are his options? If you are the second, that's why you need to think about it from 2 angles of 2 degrees of separation from where the ball actually is. You know, like, let's go back to this, and I'll come back here, but let me kind of explain this a little better. In this situation, you create the base, you have the outlet. If the outlet was here, there is no way this ball is going to come through here because 7's in the way, right? But look at who's open. It could come here, and as it comes here, he shifts. He could pass it here, depending on his body shape. If his body shape is correct, right? His body shape should be like that. This guy's body shape's like this. This guy's body shape is actually, depending on where he's moving or where he anticipates this to go, he could be here or he could be here because he can see the ball still, right? There might be a chance that he sees this pass, but you got to be very calm to see that far away. But if he sees this pass, it could be 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2. So regardless of what we're looking at, the CM, even though he is not getting the ball maybe in that first step, he has to position himself for the potential of what that second pass should be, right? If the pass goes here, he has to shift immediately here. If the pass goes here and then the body shape of this person is in a way where he doesn't see him to turn, you know that the most likely angle of where he's going to pass is here, which means you have to move there. Now, what are we thinking about here, right? What is the mindset of all these players? RD, right defense, RW, and so forth. The thought here is simple. Am I in a position that can support the outlet of this pass? That's the first thought. Secondly is, how close is the defender next to me? Second thought. And third thought is, what is my first 2 options of outlet? Is it to receive the ball and turn? Is it to receive the ball and pass into a space? You have to know all this in advance of the ball coming to you. So RD gets it, right? His first thought is, I'm in a danger position. He's coming to get me. My first thought should be to dribble away from pressure. As I'm dribbling away from pressure, RW knows that the options, he looks to see if there's space here. Is this guy going to get there? Or is he in a position where the guy is so close that he won't have the chance to go over the top into this space? If that's truly the case, then the right move for him is to check back in. Now, if he checks back in and this ball moves out, look at what happens, right? I'll remove this. He's going to be pressured here. Now the option, his body shape is going to be probably like this, dribbling the ball. His body shape is now option. This guy's coming, right? Now this center back or DM needs to decide, there's a guy behind me. This guy's taking the space. Do I move into this space for this pass? Or am I checking in to do a give and go because he's coming? And that all depends on what? It depends on the distance of where the defender is to you, right? If he's closing the gap because he's anticipating, the ball must do this. One touch. Here, here, you start running. The ball goes back here into the space. So the problem with most of what I watch during the game is the second runner, the second or third person in the play is waiting to react to something that they should already know will happen. If you are, so when we look at players like, let's say, Sergio Busquets, right? Unbelievable. Is he fast? He's not fast at all. He couldn't outrun most people, right? The reason why he looks so fast is because he anticipates maybe 3 or 4 steps before this. He sees the ball of where it's going to be before it's there. And so he's in the right position. If you are that type of player, your brain has to think much faster than your feet moving, right? So let's look at it from this area again. So this is area 2. And it applies to the LD as well, right? I'm just redoing this. Ball comes, you somehow win it. Pressure's on you. First thought is, do I have an outlet out? Do I see the other DM for this pass? Or do I see this pass? Whoops, sorry. Or do I see this pass? If none of those options are there, if the pass option's not there, it's the dribble away from the goal, right? So first option, do I have the options in here to pass? No, I'm dribbling away from the goal to run away from number 4. And then if nothing else is available and you know that you're being pressed, then send it into the space behind there. This is option. These are all options. 1, 1, 1, option 2, option 3, right? Because you're being pressured. And this is because you're in zone 2. And remember that when you're in zone 2, the first thought is from the players that don't have the ball that's closest is, do I slide like the way we play Rondo to get into an open position with a body shape that sees forward and hopefully the other goal and as much of the field as possible, right? Now, Max, I see you, but let me finish this thought. Let's say you are CB and you receive the ball in a manner like this, facing your own goal, which means you only see this much of the field, right? What is the right play at that point? The right play is for the RD to continue to flow out here. And actually, it's better off if there's a guy really close to you to make sure you separate into a farther out position, right? You run into this area here to receive the ball back from him. At this point, you have full view of the field. Number 4 is already chasing this ball, but it goes back here because now you're open and now you're facing forward to find 3 to release pressure. Or if you're really confident and our skills are really tight, we look for the switch if it's available, right? I know there's a lot of arrows in this place, but did you see the play out for the defender? And I'm going to remove a lot of these right now so that we can kind of look through the movement of the defender now, not the options, right? Remove, move, 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 remove, remove. That's a lot of marks that I just left there. So what is the first movement? He gets the ball, which is here. He passes the ball. So his first position is here. His second position is here, right? And even if you pass the ball out here, your first position is here, your second position is here. 1, 2. Always with the body shape of facing up, right? You don't run here because that closes the space. It's a quick pass and he could be on you. So you actually drop at an angle farther away and then you give him the option. If he's an unbelievable midfielder, then he can see where the players are, dummy, and let it go through and run into space, or he can open up his hips and the ball will go like this here, right into the open space for the runner to go to. But if he doesn't know what's going on because he didn't scan the field, the best ball is it goes up from here and it comes back here for RD to then make a decision to go forward. Yes, Max.
Okay, so you said option three.
Yep.
Most number nine there. Sometimes when like we kick it, where number nine is or number two, wherever we kick it, they're just gonna run up and shoot, and nobody can just like really turn and run that fast to get them.
Well, here's the
So
thing.
I feel like we just should kick it out.
Yeah. So what is option three? Option three is twofold. Option three is you find the space here and here, right, to exploit, or you're kicking it out to reset the team into its position because you're being overmatched. Remember what I said when you're not going to keep the ball. The game of soccer is a game of transition. It's constant transition between offense, defense, offense, defense. When you go offense, you have to be in a certain position with a mindset of, am I in a position and am I taking the correct risk to be in the defense position right away, right? So, and I saw this in both the Padiadores game and the beach game. We would make a play and then we would stand there and admire our pass instead of thinking, I just made that play. What is the next shift? Right? The mentality of the team has to be in a way where you're constantly shifting in order for you to see the options available that's coming next. So you're anticipating, hey, if I made a bad pass, where should I be to recover and I don't have to sprint to make that next move, right? The second goal that Beach scored was because our center mid and our defense were both in this area, and this entire area was open. The ball came from here into here. They took a shot and scored. That was the second goal, right? And that shot was nothing more than yeah, Andre could have saved it, but it hit his hand and it went into the net. These things could be avoided. It can be avoided if you're constantly thinking, as I am in this position, what happens if we lose it? And what happens if it progresses? Where do I go? Right. So we just kind of talked about here. If on offense, play out of the back if opponents drop to midfield, release pressure by kicking into zones 4 and 5. We just talked about that, right? Or 4 and 6, I should have said, not 5. If playing out, teams must move and find open passing lanes, which is exactly what I just shared. And defensive mid must be base of the triangle. So the defensive mid and center mid must be the base of that triangle and the point of the opposite reflection of that triangle, right? And we talked about this many times. And what is that? That is simply this. Let me see if I can find it. This right here. He's here, triangle, outside. It's their triangle. You have to create this triangle to create overloading options because each of these, LD or RD, in a situation like this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 passing options within a very short amount of time. So if the guy gets the ball here and you just stand there, and I saw this a lot with our center mids, if you just stand there, you're not helping him. He then only has 3 options, 2 options, which should be fine if you're confident on the ball. But if you're not confident on the ball, you start panicking and you don't want that. You always want to ask, how do I help my teammates to release the pressure for him? Right. So we kind of touched on the goalie and the defense a lot on this. And let's touch quickly on what the defensive mids here need to do. They need to shift. So generally speaking, right, if you're down in this area, which we're still in 2, and I kind of touched on 3 a little bit, but let's say we're in 2. If the ball is here, the base, it's all about that base. If the ball's here, the defense should not be in a straight line like this. It should never be in a straight line like that. You should be back here. You should always have an option or an outlet option. Keeper in this sense should be right over here because it could come here, here, or it could come across. It's very dangerous to go straight across unless you're 100% sure nobody is there, right? I would rather you go far and long than to do that cross blindly. And we got caught playing where we went across blindly right to their other the forward, and he goes and scores, right? So as a forward, if it's our team, then bait them into doing that cross field pass so that you can anticipate. Don't cut it off fully. Know that you can make the space and try to have him pass you the ball, right? So in a situation like this, defender never even drops. Keeper comes to the side to play an outlet. And if you played back here, you're dropping here, right? You're always, as a defender, you're always dropping. You're rarely ever going forward. And we haven't changed it up yet simply because once we start overlapping and overloading and our defenders can dribble and beat people, then I'll start teaching you that. But as of right now, every single option, literally for all our defenders, is you pass, you drop. You drop to receive, and then you're trying to play out. You're playing rondo, but in a way of running away from the the offensive guys. So let's say the ball is here. Keeper comes over here. This guy drops here to receive that pass if there's a switch. The winger drops here. Now look at the winger drops. It brings up this defender. This guy's pressing. This guy's probably over here. This guy's more in the center. Look at what happens. You still maintain the base. DM, CB. Do you have the angle? No. You don't have the angle CB, right? Which is the DM or center back. But what are you doing? You're forcing them. You're framing. This is my concept, pivot, frame, overload. You're framing the other team so that 7 now can't just go here. 7 now has to sit in between, right? So CM, you could slide here, you could come over here, but the reality is this is a dangerous pass, so most likely this is going to happen, right? If this is going to happen, CM immediately shifts to this angle to receive that ball. Now you just broke the press. You broke both of these lines. Line 1, their forward line. Line 2, their midfield line. And this is where the attack begins, right? So if we think about it, our base of the triangle is always there, right? Even if you don't get the ball, you're framing the other team to make them have to move in a position that gives the other players advantage. You're not going to get the ball every time, but you have to have this shape. So look at what this shape is. The line is here. The line is here, right? It's 2 separate lines with this distance in between. It's never flat. It's rarely ever flat. The only time that it's flat is when the keeper has it and you're both on the same side because it's right in the center. But there's always the far guy is down and the near the side on the wing is up. I don't know how many times we go through this, but I rarely ever see it in the game because you guys forget it, right? And why is this guy here? From a transitional position, transition meaning we're on offense, we might lose it, we're going to go to defense. He is already in a position. If 7 wins it, for example, he's there to support immediately, right? That's why we hold this middle. That's why there's always going to be 3 or 4 guys down this middle path. So if the ball is on this side, exact inverse happens, right? You're here, this guy is up, this guy is back, this guy is there. Base of the triangle, triangle, other tip of the triangle, right? Now the decision is on 7. Where are you guarding? Let's say they play 2 midfielders. They guard this guy, they guard this guy, and this guy's pressing you. Look what happens at this point, right? You have the option to go back here and across, and now you have this freedom space here. Or if they mark both of these guys, we have a guy, we have the split to go right through. Make sense? Why do we keep the shape? The shape needs to be there to create opportunities and openings for the other team. As a defensive team, the thought in every defender's mind is percentages. Do I guard the 90% danger or the 70% danger? I would always go to the 90, right? I would always go to the 90. If they were smart, they would drop back here. They would drop here. And that would leave this guy open at this point. So based on where you are in that triangle, somebody is always going to be open. And this is the key to how we play. But we haven't been playing like this because we forget. We get into the game so much, the pressure of winning the game, even if we won that game on, let's say we won that game 4-3 against Beach Football Club, I would still not be fully happy because we were playing very direct. There was no probing, right? And we're just still on square 2. We're still in this square right now. We didn't do any of the things that we asked, that we practiced. It's like you practice for a reason. You practice to hone the skill so that in the game, it becomes natural. For us, we have to maintain the key for us and our success as a club that plays in a 9v9 team is this triangle, right? It's so important what that triangle is. And the pentagon, the shape on the outside, changes when, if you look, the shape here, because it changes based on where we play, right? This shape stays very similar. It can get stretched. This guy could move up. This guy could come in. This guy could move up. But it's all here. The shifting and the key to this is the 3 of you in the middle. And if and I'll stop it here because we've kind of gone over. But unless you make the shift, we play like every other team. We're kickball. We're direct. I don't want us to be direct. I want us to conserve our energy because the ball is just moving. And when we move the ball in specific ways, and when we get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I will explain to you how this shape shifts. But I wanted to concentrate on the defense because a lot of the times, because of the horseshoe shape that we play, the ball's going to be in the back a lot. So as a defender, remember, you pass, you drop. And then you look middle, wing, or horseshoe switch. That's your only option offensively, right? And when you're in trouble, go deep into zones 4, 7, 6, 9 so that you can reset. Don't kick it into the middle. Because I think sometimes you guys just try to kick it as hard as you can and it goes right down the middle. Guess what? The middle is where all their defenders are. And so they outnumber us up front 2-1 or 3-1. You kick it down the middle to Adishai, Jonathan, or whoever. Yes, they're fast, but most likely they're going to get beat up and it's going to come right down your throat. So if you have a clearance, think about 4-4-7, 6-9. Okay. So let me kind of stop it here. I will stop here. You know what I didn't do? Here, let me pause recording or I'll